Hello friends, welcome back to my art studio for the January Young at Art program for the Butte Museum of Art. I'm glad to see you back. I hope you guys had a great holiday break and are ready to start the new year. Happy New Year! So for this month's story, do you remember we start off with a story that highlights Caldecott Award-winning picture book? Because that helps us know that we have some really amazing storytelling and some really amazing artwork to look at, right? Okay, so for this month, I wanted to read A Sick Day for Amos McGee. And this is written by Philip Stead, and it's illustrated by Erin Stead. So this is a husband and a wife team. They work together to tell their story through their words and through their artwork. So I thought that was really neat. Okay, let's go on this adventure together. A Sick Day for Amos McGee. Amos McGee was an early riser. Every morning, when the alarm clock clanged, he swung his legs out of bed and swapped his pajamas for a fresh, pressed uniform. He would wind his watch and set a pot of water to boil, saying to the sugar bowl, "A spoonful for my oatmeal, please, and 2 for my teacup." You see him getting his breakfast ready? Oh, I got there we go. All right. Belly full and ready for the workday, he'd amble out the door. And there he goes, off to work. I don't know if I got that other one. Did I get that other one in here? There we go. It's so hard to see what I'm showing you. Every day, Amos waited for the number 5 bus. "Next stop, City Zoo," the bus driver would call. "6 a.m., right on time," he would reply. Amos had a lot to do at the zoo, but he always made time to visit his good friends. So here he is, taking his bus to the zoo. Off he goes. And there he is going in to the City Zoo. Let's find out who his friends are. He would play chess with the elephant, who thought and thought and thought before making a move. He'd run races with the tortoise, who never, ever lost. And look, this little tortoise race, it's got like a cheering section of more friends. Look at that. And here's the elephant playing chess. He sat quietly with the penguin, who was very shy. Lend a handkerchief to the rhinoceros, who always had a runny nose. There's a penguin friend. And look at that rhinoceros. He does look a little bit like he's not feeling well, huh? He's got his scarf on and everything. And at sunset, read stories to the owl, who was afraid of the dark. Here's our owl friend. Up there. You see him reading stories? Reading stories to the owl. One day, Amos awoke with the sniffles, and the sneezes, and the chills. He swung his achy legs out of bed, curled them back again, and said, "Ugh, I don't think I'll be going to work today." Oh no, Amos isn't feeling well. Oh, let's see what happens. Meanwhile, at the zoo, the animals waited for their friend. The elephant arranged his ponds and polished his castles. The tortoise stretched his legs and limbered up. The penguin sat patiently, all by himself. The rhinoceros worried that his allergies were worsening. The owl perched atop a tall stack of storybooks, scratching his head with concern. Where is Amos? The animals wondered. Look at them, all trying to figure out where their friend is. Let me see over here. So hard to see. I want to get it close enough for you to see all the details. Later that day, now the animals are going to have an adventure. Look, what are they doing? Can you see? There's even a red balloon friend coming along. Do you see that? Coming down the walk from the zoo. And where are they waiting? Do you see this? Do you see where they're waiting? Are they waiting for the bus here? How are they all going to fit on the bus? That's my question. Like this. Check that out. Oh my goodness. The elephant is taking up like the whole back end of the bus. Can you see that? Hooray! My good friends are here. Look, they've made it to visit Amos McGee. And here they are. Ready to help him the way he always helps them, right? The elephant prepared a game of chess. Amos thought and thought before making a move. I'm too tired to run races today, said Amos to the tortoise. Let's play hide and seek instead. The tortoise hid inside his shell. Amos hid beneath the covers. You see this? Now they're doing the things that they always get to do with him. Let's see. Can I hold this up? They're playing chess. And look at that. They're playing hide and go seek with their blankets. Amos yawned. I could use a nap. The penguin sat quietly, keeping Amos's feet warm. Achoo! Amos awoke with a sneeze. The rhinoceros was ready with a handkerchief. There's the rhinoceros. The penguin's like, oh my goodness. And there he is, keeping his feet warm. Do you see his feet sticking out? I'm beginning to feel much better, thank you, said Amos to his friends. He swung his legs out of bed. Perhaps we'll share a pot of tea. And look how they are delivering the tea to his friends at the table. Look at that. Look how they're all working together. Amos wound his alarm clock. It's getting late, he said. After all, we have a morning bus to catch. So Amos said good night to the elephant, and good night to the tortoise, and good night to the penguin, and good night to the rhinoceros, and good night to the owl, who, knowing that Amos was afraid of the dark, read a story aloud before turning out the light. So here's the owl reading his story. You know what? They ended with a slumber party. Look at that. Oh, can you see? There you go. Hopefully everybody feels better in the morning, right? And then they'll go back to the zoo and start their days again. All right, so one of the things I really like about this book is how gentle, how soft the illustrations are. And they're really simple too, right? Like there's not a lot of colors. But it's just like these really simple shapes, simple colors, with some tiny details that really make them special. Like one of the things I really liked was his blanket. It's like it's got peacock feathers on it or something like that. Do you see that? Do you see how simple that is? And I really like how, even though these are just a solid pool of color, there's a little bit of detail and texture in there. It makes it interesting, even though it's just a plain green, that sort of thing. So I thought for our art idea for this month, that we could do something similar. So you're going to want to have some thicker paper, if you have thicker paper, and whatever size you have will totally work. So thicker paper if you have it, because we're going to use watercolors. So watercolors, these are my watercolors. But if you have watercolors like these guys, they totally work too, right? If you don't have watercolors or if you don't have thicker paper, It's fine to use crayons, it's fine to use markers, colored pencils, whatever you have that you want to explore with, right? We're always just trying to explore an idea, right? So the idea really is more important, and the exploration is really more important, right, than having the perfect art supplies for these projects. So if you have watercolors, you'll of course want a paintbrush. So I have a couple of paintbrushes in my jar. And if you have a paintbrush, it's not going to get you very far unless you have some water. So get a jar of water. And the other thing I used to start out was a rusty, trusty pencil. If you have a pencil and you want to sketch out your idea. If you don't, just go for it, right? And the last thing is, if you want, and if you have it, you could use a black colored pencil, or if you're brave, you could use some black permanent markers. And the reason why I want them to be permanent is so that they don't run when you use the watercolors, because regular markers will just go all over the place, right, if you get them wet with the watercolors. So if you're brave, you could use these permanent markers too. And what I wanted to think about was, I loved in this story how Amos and his friends are always trying to help each other, right? They're always trying to work together and trying to help and to be kind. And I thought that was a really great idea to think about with my artwork, that I wanted to show some artwork of somebody being kind and helping out their friends. And I always love animals. So I picked the idea of an elephant. And my elephant is holding an umbrella to shade this bird. And you can't see it because I haven't colored it in at all yet. But I tried to put some white colored pencil up here. And you can do white crayon if you have white crayons. That hopefully when I color this in, it'll look like it's raining. So this elephant is helping to keep his friend the bird dry. So for drawing an animal, I love drawing animals, but when I draw an animal out of my imagination, when I'm just like, oh, I'll draw an elephant, they look a little silly. Sometimes they look good. Sometimes they look a little silly. So one thing I like to do if I have an idea is I go and I look for pictures of the thing, like an actual photograph of the thing that I want to draw, right? And that is actually a really great way to do art because it helps our eyes and our brains and our hands all figure out how to work together to create an image of something. So if you have any like nature magazines, or if you have an old nature calendar, or any other kind of pictures, like even like a bird guidebook or anything like that that you could look at, or an encyclopedia, you could get that out if you wanted to see what the animal is that you wanted to draw looks like. And of course, it's always okay if you just want to make an imaginary friend who's helping and another imaginary friend, or whatever you want to do. So I looked at a picture of an elephant here, and I drew him, but I drew my little bird out of my imagination. And I don't know, umbrellas. They just look like umbrellas, right? Okay, so remember when we talked about the book and how there were these really simple colors, right? Really simple shapes and really simple colors. So I'm going to paint really quick. And if you guys have your paintings ready, you can paint too. Oh, I put my book down rather than my watercolors. So I'm going to get my watercolors wet. And I really liked how pastel it was too. So I'm not going to use a lot of the pigment from these watercolors. I'm going to keep them pretty soft. I'm going to make my umbrella bright pink. All right, so let's see if I can get this going. So I got my paint on my brush, and here we go. I'm just going to paint into my umbrella shape on my drawing. So there that goes. And you want to use thicker paper with watercolors, because if you don't, the water will just go right through the paper and your paper might get a hole in it. And that's not really what you want for your artwork, right? So if you do have thicker paper, that will definitely help. All right, I almost have my umbrella filled in here. Another thing that's neat to do with watercolors is sometimes when your brush is nice and wet and full of paint, oh, my paints are sliding. There we go. You see my pink umbrella there? So I was able to get this fully colored in, right? Because my brush had lots of water and lots of paint on it. But sometimes you can get some really neat textures if your paintbrush doesn't have as much paint on it. Okay, so that's something to explore too, right? Is what kind of different textures you can even get. And if you had paper towel and you painted an area and then you took a chunk of your paper towel and kind of dabbed it on that, that'll give you some really neat textures too. And if you had cotton balls or anything else that was absorbent, you could totally play around with that some more. All right, I want to see what happens with my sky, because remember I wanted to see if it would rain. I'm going to see, I'm just going to do a little section of it because I was curious to see, right? Because we're exploring, right? When we make our artwork, it doesn't always have to look perfect, right? Sometimes we're just exploring an idea and we want to see if what we're trying to do will even work out, right? And it's okay if it doesn't because we still learned something, right? So I'm going to learn. I'm going to learn from this. I'm going to see if my white colored pencil will work out to block some of my paint off my paper so that it looks like it's raining. I'm going to get a lot of water. Get a lot of water here because I want a really light rainy sky. I'm going to put it on here and I want to see what happens. So here we go. Got a little corner covered. Let's see what happens. I'm not seeing like it's really making very visible raindrops. So my idea might not have worked out so well. I'm going to do a little tiny bit more and then I'll show you. I'll just get a little bit of water right onto my board. All right. So can you see? I put little white dashes in there, but I don't think they're showing up. Are they showing up? Oopsie, I'm dripping. Do you see my drips coming down? It's another fun thing to do with watercolors, is to see which way it drips. Okay, so I'm going to do one other thing. Like I said, I'm going to grab this paper towel because my first idea didn't work out very well, did it? Right? I'm going to take my piece of paper towel. I'm going to put it right down on my sky there. I'm going to pull it up carefully and look what happened. Can you see that? Can you see that? Can you see how the paper towel made kind of those circular, spirally textures on there? Can you see that? There we go. So there's another thing, like we could do that deliberately. We could see if we could get these spirals to make a little imprint in our paint, and that would give me my rainy sky texture that I was looking for. So there you go. There's an idea. Find a special animal friend and see if you can create a drawing of him or her trying to help out somebody else, trying to be helpful and trying to be kind. Does that sound good? Sound good for our January? All right. There's one more thing I wanted to share with you guys. And I started this last month, so maybe you remember. I ended with December, so I'm going to start again with January. This book did not win the Caldecott, but it is a Caldecott honor book, okay? So these are still some really gorgeous illustrations. And I like this book because it's a year's worth, so 12 months of poems, like a poem for each month. And so I think I'm going to finish off my my little art programs each month with the month's poem in A Child's Calendar by John Updike. Okay, so we're in January now, right? And it's cold and it's snowy out and the days are short and the nights are long. And here is how this poet wanted to talk about January. He says, January. The days are short, the sun a spark, hung thin between the dark and dark. Fat, snowy footsteps track the floor, and parkas pile up near the door. The river is a frozen place, held still beneath the trees' black lace. The sky is low, the wind is gray. The radiator purrs all day. There's a kitty sitting on top of the radiator. You see all their coats here next to the door. They're out in the cold, aren't they? The kitty's inside warm. All right, and look over here. There they are. Are they out sledding? Sledding on a cold, gray January day. So there you go, guys. Happy January. I'll see you again next month. Stay warm, stay well, and have fun exploring with your artwork. All right. Take care, guys.